All right, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast, BBOR Black Box Online Radio. Now, on this channel, I mentioned that I was going to do a few question and answer sessions related to some of the things that you guys have been either asking about or commenting on in the comments sections. And today we're going to go through some of the comments on the Zodiac Killer. I have 5 or 6 uploads, actually maybe it's up to 7 now, on the Zodiac Killer, and this is one of the cases that I've really covered for a long time. By that I mean I've just been, learning about it for about the last 20 years. Maybe you have too. I'm not an expert on the Zodiac, where I can just rattle off the dates and times of every single event the way some people can, and maybe you're thinking of a certain person that comes to mind. But I thought I would go through a few of the comments that you have written out here on the Zodiac videos that I did on Black Box Radio. Okay, the first one we have comes to us from The Cat, just simply named The Cat. Now, this is a very long comment, but I'm just going to read one little part here wherein it says that the key to the Zodiac Killer mystery is Darlene Ferrin. And The Cat goes on to talk about how there's this very elaborate theory of Darlene Ferrin was 17 years old and having an affair with a merchant marine who was in his 50s, and Darlene got pregnant, and you can imagine the rest. But I would say that this is a sentiment that has been expressed by a lot of people in the internet. I should say on the internet. My English is terrible today, excuse me. So, what about Darlene Ferrin? What on earth is going on there? Because I watched the videos from the Lord and Arts channel, hosted by John Lorden, when he talks about the Zodiac Killer theory, and he said the exact same thing, that he thought Darlene Ferrin was the key to this, that everybody comes back to Darlene. And in 2011, when I was just looking into the Zodiac case myself, I had the exact same feeling. I was just like, there's something about Darlene in this. Everybody always does exactly what the cat did. They're picking up on something related to Darlene Ferrin. And I mentioned in the Arthur Leigh Allen upload that Arthur Leigh Allen lived, 50 yards? It's either something like 50 feet or 50 yards from the restaurant where Darlene Ferrin worked. But Louis Myers, another Zodiac Killer suspect, worked in the very same restaurant. So we have a definite connection to Darlene. I mean, she's definitely... There's a very high chance that people are onto something, that the Zodiac had an infatuation with her, that she was not a random accident, it wasn't by chance. The killer knew exactly who she was, and there was a very large motivation going on for Darlene Ferrin. As far as anything about her having a relationship with a merchant marine who was the Zodiac Killer, that I can't really comment on that. The Cat is the first person to ever say anything about that. Okay, now, for some of the next comments, I have the comments written down here, but I don't have the YouTube usernames, but we'll just go through some of the questions that have been posed. Now, I did 2 uploads on the case of Richard Gaikowski, and I mentioned that the internet often likes to say that Richard Gaikowski went by the nickname Gaik, spelled G-A-I-K, but sometimes he wrote it G-Y-K-E, and I asked the internet, does anybody have any first-hand sources that says that he wrote his name G-Y-K-E? Because G-Y-K-E appears in the Zodiac ciphers. And everybody's like, Gaik is for Gaikowski, but does anybody have any first-hand sources that Richard Gaikowski wrote his name Gaik, G-Y-K-E? And the person who has written this comment says that he was cryptic. He would not have spelled his name G-A-I-K to give it away. And that could be something very big. That could be something very big right there. I've entertained that possibility since I did the Zodiac recordings on Richard Gaikowski. It was like, I really thought that maybe that could be one of the largest things. That whole thing, why we see GYKE, that could have been the answer to everything. That could have been the entire mystery solved right there. That's just sort of his way of confessing without actually revealing his name, because we don't really seem to have any first-hand sources that he spelled his name G-Y-K-E. We have a friend holding a postcard saying Dick Gaikowski always wrote it G-A-I-K, and he has a first-hand source. However, Richard Gaikowski was possibly in New York for the date of one of the murders, and there is a possibility that he was in Ireland at the time of another one. We don't have the most hard evidence to support those things, but I would say that we didn't really get back any DNA evidence. I mean, there was the one documentary that tried to nail Richard Gaikowski as the Zodiac killer, but they didn't get a confirmation on DNA or the side palm print that is written on the letters. But you would think that somebody must have letters from Richard Gaikowski that were handwritten. I mean, somebody. This guy was a very prominent figure in San Francisco. He was the editor of a newspaper. Another comment, though, that someone was left behind was that he has the look. True. He has the name. And again, that's, name is referring to Geik in the ciphers. Even if the proof isn't there, I still feel it's him. Maybe. I mean, even with, hearing these things that there's a high chance he was on the East Coast, most likely in New York for the time of one of the murders, there's still always a part of me that thinks it could be Richard Gaikowski. But there's always, this sort of feeling that I'm battling when I'm like, a lot of the things push me in that direction, but at the same time, nothing really seems to fit like a glove. Now, we have a comment on one of the uploads about Louis Myers, where I mentioned one of the largest arguments against the case of Louis Myers is that could a 17-year-old have pulled off the first murder of the Zodiac killer? Could this be the work of a teenager? We're not only talking about murders, but also the ciphers, taunting the police in the way he did. Could that have been a teenager? Because remember that Louis Myers would have had to have been 17 years old to be the Zodiac killer. 17 years old at the first time of the very first murder. So, what someone left a comment on was that they were saying that, yes, absolutely, that I don't think there's any doubt about this. Teenagers are capable of killing, and they can also be involved with things like codes and cryptic messages. So basically what they're saying is that Louis Myers definitely could have been involved with this. Teenagers can be all about, coded messages. Teenagers can learn all about, symbols and runes. And one of the big things about why we have the Zodiac symbol, the circle with the cross in it, Randy Kenny, the friend of Louis Myers who had his confession, says that this was a Celtic cross. Many people thought it was the scope of the gun, like he was hunting somebody. But he says it was a Celtic cross because Myers was very, very into his heritage. I would say, with the case of Louis Myers, just that it fits. This one feels like it's almost starting to fit like a glove, but we have some very, very big anomalies. I would just say, though, if anybody is listening to this, look at the photos of Louis Myers and then look at the Zodiac sketches. I'm seeing some very strong similarities in the lips, very strong similarities in the chin, the jawline, all of those things. The first reason that people would say Louis Myers was not the Zodiac killer is he looks nothing like the sketch, but I see a lot of physical similarities there. And someone else was left a comment on the upload I did, Arthur Leigh Allen's partner, where they just said that they also had the same feeling that about Arthur Leigh Allen having a partner, like somebody else wrote the letters, someone else wrote the ciphers, and it was somebody else that licked the envelope and put a stamp on the envelope and mailed the letters. This would be, if I didn't say that very clearly, it's basically they're just saying that there were two people involved with the Zodiac murders. Arthur Leigh Allen committed the crimes, and somebody sent the letters and, of course, would prepare the envelopes and the stamp. That's why we do not have Arthur Leigh Allen's DNA, and that's why we do not have Arthur Leigh Allen's side palm print on the letters. I'm glad to know that I was not alone, and as I said in that upload, that is not something that I am, pouring my heart and soul into, because I just don't have 100% certainty of that. It's just like I mentioned after watching the film Zodiac with Jake Gyllenhaal, two things kind of just connected for me, and I was like, wait a second. Because that film is all about, promoting Arthur Leigh Allen, and I'm like, wait a second, what if he just had a partner? That would sort of explain all this mountain of evidence pointing toward Arthur Leigh Allen, but it would also explain why he was exonerated from DNA evidence. What really happened with Arthur Leigh Allen, I don't know, other than the fact that the guy was a very shady and unethical individual. Now, I was looking for a comment on all of the uploads I did on the Zodiac Killer, and I couldn't find it. Either the person must have deleted it or something. I don't think I did. But someone was saying something about Graysmith, the character that Jake Gyllenhaal plays in Zodiac, and they were saying that his book was plagiarized and parts of it were intentionally fabricated. And I really wanted to go through that comment to try and do some things for this particular upload, a Zodiac Q&A, but I just could not find it anymore. But someone again thinks that Graysmith was up to no good. And also, and back in 2011 when I was really involved with this case, somebody, of course, wrote, why did they make the film about him and not about Gareth Penn, another Zodiac researcher? That I'm not sure, but... Oh, one thing, I didn't write this one down, but somebody else made a comment about the case of Louis Myers, where they're like, if Louis Myers were the Zodiac Killer, he would have been too young to have been involved with Sherry Jo Bates in Riverside. All right, yes. And as far as I know, in the Myers confession, there is no connection between Louis Myers and Sherry Jo Bates, they would not have had a connection there. To the best of my knowledge, he did not confess that murder to his friend Randy Kenny, who had the deathbed confession of Louis Myers. But someone brought that up, and I think that's an excellent point to talk about. If there is any sort of connection at all, we're still kind of, people are very 50-50 about that. People are very divided about that. I really found that the people who are pushing the Ross Sullivan angle are more invested in the mystery of Sherry Jo Bates. Okay, well, I went through some of the comments and tripped over some words today while presenting, but thank you to everybody who's left a comment, and I appreciate all the feedback on any of these uploads. No matter what you have to say, any sort of feedback, criticism, comments are welcome. Thank you for participating in discussions on some of these cases. Well, that's all for me now. Until next time.